Single dad refused his ex-wife's plea after the divorce. "I want you back," she begged. The rain poured down on the city street as Harper dropped to her knees in front of the man she once called worthless. Her designer dress soaked through, mascara running down her face. She gripped his leg with both hands, while onlookers stopped to watch. "I was naive," she cried profusely. "I thought money was everything. I know better now. Please, Ian, I want you back." Ian stood perfectly still, his expensive suit barely touched by the rain under his umbrella. Beside him, his fiancée watched calmly, her hand resting in his. He looked down at the woman begging at his feet, the same woman who told the divorce court he lacked ambition, the same woman who married a wealthy man barely 3 weeks after their divorce was finalized, the same woman who took his daughter and left him with nothing. Without a word, Ian gently removed his leg from her grip. He did not look back. He did not speak. He simply adjusted his umbrella, took his fiancée's hand, and walked toward the black Mercedes waiting at the curb. Behind him, Harper's sobs grew louder, echoing off the buildings. But this was not just a rejected proposal. This was karma delivered in its purest form, because the man walking away was not the broke mechanic Harper divorced. He was the multimillionaire who now owned her new husband's entire empire. And the little girl running toward him from the car, calling Daddy with pure joy in her voice, was the daughter the court had just given him full custody of. How did a humble mechanic become powerful enough to destroy the life of the woman who humiliated him? And why did she not see it coming until it was far too late? Sit tight as we go back to where it all began. 18 months earlier, Harper sat beside her attorney in the courtroom, posture perfect, makeup flawless. She wore a dress that said responsible mother, without trying too hard. Across the aisle, Ian sat in his only suit, the one he wore to funerals and parent-teacher conferences. His attorney was a public defender who looked tired before the hearing even started. The judge reviewed the paperwork in silence. Harper's lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my client has been very clear about her reasons for seeking this divorce." She glanced at Ian, then back at the judge. "Mr. Bennett is a mechanic. He has been a mechanic for 12 years. His income has remained essentially stagnant. He spends what little savings they have on what he calls investments, but which any reasonable person would call gambling." Ian's attorney started to object, but Harper's lawyer continued. "He lacks ambition, Your Honor. He lacks drive. Their daughter Hazel deserves better. She deserves stability, a future. My client is prepared to provide that." The judge looked at Ian. "Mr. Bennett, do you have anything to say?" Ian looked at Harper. She met his eyes without flinching. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked down at his hands, grease still faint under his fingernails, despite scrubbing them raw that morning. "No, Your Honor." The judge granted the divorce. Harper was awarded primary custody of 6-year-old Hazel. Ian got every other weekend and alternating holidays. Child support was set at $400 a month, nearly a quarter of his take-home pay. He signed the papers. Harper walked out of the courthouse into bright September sunshine and called her mother. "It is done. I am finally free." 3 weeks later, Harper married Alexander Cross. Alex was 52, silver-haired, confident in the way men with money learn to be. He owned Cross Development, a real estate investment firm with projects across 3 states. He drove a Range Rover. His watch cost more than Ian made in 6 months. Harper moved into his waterfront mansion the day after the wedding. She posted photos on social media. The view from the master bedroom, the infinity pool, Hazel in a new dress standing in front of floor-to-ceiling windows. "Finally living the life we deserve," the caption read. At the garage where Ian worked, his co-worker Richard saw the posts during lunch break. "Man, I am sorry." Ian wiped his hands on a rag and said nothing. He went back under the hood of a Toyota Camry and stayed there until closing. But what Harper did not know, what she had never bothered to ask about, was what Ian had actually been doing with his money all those years. 5 years earlier, Ian had attended his college reunion. Most of his old classmates were doing well. Lawyers, engineers, one guy who did something with cryptocurrency that no one really understood. Ian nursed a beer in the corner, and talked to the only other person who looked uncomfortable in the hotel ballroom. His name was Danny. They had been roommates freshman year. Danny was skinny, talked too fast, and was explaining an energy technology startup he had just founded. "It is called thermal energy conversion," Danny said. "We can pull ambient heat from the environment and convert it to usable electricity. No fossil fuels. Minimal infrastructure. It could change everything." "Sounds expensive," Ian said. "It is," Danny laughed. "I am broke. My co-founder is broke. We are running the whole operation out of a garage. Literally. But Ian, if this works, if we can just get the prototype functional and get in front of the right people, this could be it." Ian went home that night and looked at his bank account. $3,200. Harper was pregnant with Hazel. They needed a crib, a car seat, about 1,000 other things. He stared at the number on the screen for 20 minutes. Then he called Danny. "How much do you need?" Over the next 5 years, Ian invested nearly every spare dollar he had. When Harper asked where the money went, he said car repairs, unexpected bills, things that sounded boring enough not to invite follow-up questions. When she found a bank statement once and asked about a $3,000 withdrawal, he told her it was a loan to Danny, whose mother was sick. She called him irresponsible and did not bring it up again. Danny and his team worked 18-hour days in that garage, then in a rented warehouse, then in a small office park. They had 3 employees, then 7, then 12. The technology worked in theory. In practice, it was finicky, expensive, and kept breaking down. Investors came to meetings, listened politely, and never called back. Ian kept sending money when he could. 200 here, 500 there. Danny sent updates every few months. "Still working on it, getting close. Thank you for believing in us." Then the updates stopped coming. Ian checked the company website. It had not been updated in 8 months. He called Danny and got voicemail. He stopped checking his investment account because seeing the number just made him tired. By the time Harper filed for divorce, Ian had written off the entire investment as a loss. $43,000 over 5 years, gone. He did not mention it in the divorce proceedings. It felt like admitting he had failed twice. If you are watching this story and you can already see where this is going, take 5 seconds right now and subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our stories. We tell these stories every day, and you do not want to miss what happens next. Now let us continue. After the divorce, Ian moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. The building was older, but clean. The landlord did not ask questions. Ian bought used furniture and hung one picture on the wall, a photo of Hazel at the beach from 2 summers ago. Every other Friday, he picked her up from school. They got ice cream, went to the park, watched movies on his secondhand couch. On Sunday evenings, he drove her back to the mansion and watched her disappear through the front door. Harper barely spoke to him during exchanges. When she did, it was logistics. "Hazel has a dentist appointment Tuesday. She needs new shoes. I will send you the bill. Do not let her have sugar after 7. She gets hyper." Ian nodded and wrote things down in his phone. Alex was never present for drop-offs. Ian caught glimpses of him sometimes, moving past windows inside the house, always on his phone. Hazel mentioned him occasionally. "Alex has a boat. Alex says we might go to Europe next summer. Alex bought me a tablet, but Mom says I can only use it for an hour a day." Ian listened and asked if she was happy. Hazel always said yes, but she was 6. What else would she say? Then one afternoon in late March, Ian was under a Honda Accord when Richard knocked on the chassis. "Phone call for you. Says it is important." Ian rolled out, wiped his hands, and took the phone. "Ian? This is Danny." Ian walked outside into the parking lot. Traffic hummed on the road. "Danny, it has been a while." "I know. I am sorry. We went dark for a bit. Had to focus. But Ian, I am calling because we did it. We got the contract." "What contract?" "Department of Energy. $3.2 billion over 6 years. They want our system for a pilot program. 15 sites. If it works, they scale it nationwide. Ian, we just got acquired. Helios Energy bought us this morning, 72 million, your shares. Ian stopped walking. A car alarm went off somewhere down the street. Ian, are you there? Yeah. Your shares are worth $240 million. Ian sat down on the curb. A truck drove past. Someone honked. The sun was too bright. Say that again. Danny laughed, and it sounded like he was crying at the same time. You are rich, man. We are all rich. You believed in us when no one else did. You kept us alive. This is real. Ian sat on that curb for 15 minutes after the call ended. Then he went back inside, finished his shift, clocked out at 6, and drove home. He sat in his apartment and stared at the wall. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. I need a lawyer, a good one. The attorney he hired was named Becca. She worked for a firm downtown that occupied 4 floors of a glass tower. Her office had a view of the river. Ian sat across from her in his work jeans and told her everything. She listened, took notes, and did not react. When he finished, she set down her pen. You want full custody? Yes? Tell me why. Because she is my daughter. Because I love her. And because Harper is not raising her. She is paying other people to do it. Can you prove that? I can try. Becca leaned back in her chair. Mr. Bennett, custody cases are hard. Mothers usually have the advantage, especially with young children. But if what you are saying is true, and if we can document it, then yes, we have a case. It will not be cheap. Ian thought about the number Danny had said on the phone. Money is not a problem anymore. Becca smiled for the first time. Then let us get to work. Over the next 3 months, Becca's firm conducted a quiet investigation. They interviewed teachers at Hazel's school. They reviewed attendance records. They spoke with neighbors, staff members, anyone who had visibility into the household. They compiled phone records showing Harper's travel schedule. They documented 14 trips in 6 months. New York, Miami, Los Angeles, twice to Europe. Some trips lasted 4 days, some lasted 2 weeks. They interviewed the nannies, 3 different women in 8 months. All of them said the same thing. Harper was rarely home. When she was distracted. Hazel was sweet, polite, and spent most of her time with staff. One nanny, a woman in her 50s named Maria, spoke on the record. I love that little girl. But she asks me things a child should ask her mother. She wants me to braid her hair the way her mommy used to. She wants me to read her bedtime stories. I do it because someone has to, but it breaks my heart. Becca filed the petition. Harper received the papers on a Thursday afternoon. She called Ian immediately. What the hell is this? It is what it looks like. You are trying to take Hazel from me? I am trying to give her stability. You live in a 1-bedroom apartment, Ian. You work at a garage. You think a judge is going to choose you over me? We will see. Harper hung up. She hired an attorney that same day. Expensive, connected, someone Alex recommended. They prepared a counter-argument. Ian was limited in resources. He worked long hours. He could not provide the educational opportunities, the extracurriculars, the lifestyle Hazel had grown accustomed to. The custody hearing was scheduled. Ian showed up with Becca and a folder 3 inches thick. Harper arrived with her attorney and Alex, who sat in the back row wearing sunglasses indoors. The judge was a woman in her early 60s who had presided over family court for 20 years. She did not smile. Becca presented the case methodically. School records showing Harper missed 9 out of 12 parent-teacher conferences. Medical records showing nannies had taken Hazel to 4 out of 5 doctor appointments. Testimonies from staff, neighbors, teachers. Travel receipts. Credit card statements showing purchases made in different cities while Hazel was home in Seattle. Harper's attorney argued that providing a high-quality life required work, that Mrs. Cross was building a future for her daughter, that travel was part of her husband's business and she accompanied him to support the family. Then Becca called Maria to the stand. The nanny spoke quietly, hands folded in her lap. She described Hazel's routines, how the little girl asked when mommy would be home, how she cried some nights and asked if she did something wrong. Harper's attorney cross-examined, tried to poke holes, suggested Maria was biased. Maria simply repeated what she had seen. The judge took a recess. When she returned, she looked tired. I have reviewed all the evidence. I have listened to testimony from both sides. This court's priority is always the best interest of the child. She looked at Harper. Mrs. Cross, I do not doubt that you love your daughter, but love requires presence. It requires sacrifice. And the record shows that you have been largely absent from Hazel's daily life. She looked at Ian. Mr. Bennett, you have demonstrated consistency, engagement, and a genuine commitment to your daughter's well-being. She paused. Effective immediately, I am awarding primary custody to the father. Mrs. Cross will have visitation rights every other weekend and alternating holidays. Harper stood up. Your Honor, this is absurd. You cannot. The judge cut her off. My decision is final. We are adjourned. The gavel came down. Harper stood frozen. Her attorney put a hand on her arm. She shook it off and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Alex followed, already on his phone. Ian sat very still. Becca put a hand on his shoulder. You did it. He nodded. He could not speak yet. That weekend, Hazel moved into Ian's apartment. He had already rented a 2-bedroom place across town, something with better schools nearby. Her room was painted yellow, her favorite color. He had bought new furniture, stuffed animals, books. When she walked in, she looked around and smiled. Is this really mine? Really yours? She hugged him around the waist. I missed you, Daddy. I missed you too, sweetheart. Harper called that night. Ian let it go to voicemail. She called again an hour later. He answered. This is not over, she said. You did this. You poisoned everyone against me. You are going to regret this. He hung up. Then he blocked her number and gave all communication over to Becca. But while Ian was fighting for his daughter, something else was happening. Something Harper had no idea about. Something that would change everything for a second time. Alex's empire was collapsing. Cross Estate Development had looked impressive from the outside. 10 major projects across 3 states. A downtown headquarters. Press releases about expansion, growth, opportunity. Alex had built a reputation as a visionary. Someone who saw potential where others saw risk. What no one knew was that the vision was built on borrowed money. Lots of it. Alex had leveraged every property to buy the next one. He had taken out loans against future developments that had not broken ground yet. When interest rates were low, the strategy worked. Money was cheap. Banks were happy. Everyone made projections about returns that sounded good in conference rooms. Then the economy shifted. Interest rates climbed. 3 of Alex's biggest developments stalled when contractors pulled out. A mixed-use project in Phoenix sat half-finished, bleeding money every month. A luxury condo tower in Denver could not find buyers at the prices Alex needed to break even. The banks started making calls. Polite at first, then less polite. Lines of credit were pulled. Loans were called in. Alex spent his days on the phone, moving money from one account to cover another, always one step ahead of default. Harper noticed he was stressed. He snapped at her over small things. He took calls at dinner and left the table without excusing himself. But when she asked, he waved her off. Just business. It will smooth out. She believed him. Why would she not? The mansion was still there. The cars were still in the garage. Alex still wore custom suits and talked about deals in the pipeline. Then in late September, Cross Estate Development filed for bankruptcy protection. The news hit the business section on a Wednesday morning. Harper was at a spa appointment when her phone started ringing. Friends, acquaintances, people she had not spoken to in months. She ignored the calls and checked the news. Cross Estate Development seeks Chapter 11 protection. Creditors circle as real estate firm collapses. She drove home. Alex was in his office, door closed. She could hear him shouting on the phone. She waited in the hallway. When he finally came out, his face was gray. "How bad is it?" He walked past her without answering. She followed him to the kitchen. He poured whiskey even though it was barely noon. "Alex, talk to me. We are done. The company is done. The bankruptcy trustee takes over tomorrow." "What does that mean?" "It means we lose everything." Harper sat down. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. "You said this would not happen. You said the business was solid." Alex drained his glass. "I said a lot of things." Over the next 2 weeks, the dismantling began. The trustee cataloged assets. Creditors filed claims. Lawyers sent letters. Alex stopped going to the office. He stayed in the house, on his phone, trying to salvage something. Then a new player entered the bankruptcy proceedings. An investment firm called Soakton Holdings filed paperwork showing they had purchased the majority of Cross Estate Development's secured debt. When the restructuring was finalized, Soakton would become the primary owner of what remained of the company. Alex's attorney called him with the news. "Who the hell is Soakton Holdings?" The attorney sighed. "A private equity firm. They just started buying distressed assets. They are good at it. Can we fight this?" "With what money, Alex?" The bankruptcy court approved the restructuring in early October. Soakton Holdings took control. A new board was appointed. All existing executive positions were subject to review. The first board meeting under new ownership was scheduled for October 15th. Harper still held a title at Cross Estate Development, Executive Vice President of Marketing. It was mostly ceremonial, something Alex had given her after they got married. She attended events, smiled in photos, approved promotional materials other people created. The salary was $90,000 a year for maybe 10 hours of actual work per week. She assumed the new owners would keep her on. She had done nothing wrong. She was not responsible for Alex's decisions. On the morning of the 15th, she dressed in her best suit. Black, tailored, expensive. She arrived at the office at 8:45. Other executives were already there, standing in clusters, talking in low voices. No one knew what to expect. At 9, they were called into the main conference room. Harper walked in and looked toward the head of the table. Ian sat there in a charcoal gray suit, white shirt, no tie. His hands were folded on the table in front of him. He looked calm, rested. When the executives entered, he stood. So did the 3 attorneys sitting beside him. "Good morning. My name is Ian Bennett. As of last week, Soakton Holdings owns 68% of this company. I am the majority shareholder of Soakton Holdings, which means as of today, I own this company." The room went completely silent. Harper stood near the door, one hand on the back of a chair. Ian did not look at her. "Please sit down." Everyone sat. Ian remained standing. One of the attorneys opened a laptop and connected it to the projector. A spreadsheet appeared on the screen. "Over the past 3 months, my team has conducted a thorough review of Cross Estate Development's finances. What we found was years of mismanagement, unsustainable debt, and projects that should never have been approved. This company has been insolvent for at least 18 months. It stayed afloat through accounting tricks and by borrowing against assets that had no real value." He clicked to the next slide. "We are implementing an immediate restructuring. 12 of the 15 active projects will be shut down or sold. The remaining 3 will be completed under new management. Operational staff will be retained where possible. Most executive positions will be eliminated." Harper's hands were shaking. She folded them in her lap. Ian went through the restructuring plan point by point. Which departments would be consolidated? Which contracts would be terminated? Which roles were redundant? His voice never changed. He could have been reading a grocery list. When he finished, he looked around the room. "If your position is being eliminated, you will receive notification by end of business today. Severance packages will be handled according to your contracts. If you have questions, my staff will be available. Thank you for your time." He closed the laptop. The attorneys gathered their materials. Ian walked out of the room. He still had not looked at Harper. By 4 that afternoon, Harper received an email. Her position had been eliminated effective immediately. Severance was 2 weeks' pay. Her company credit card was deactivated. Her access to the building would be revoked at 5 p.m. She sat in her office, the one with the window overlooking the plaza, and stared at the screen. Someone from HR knocked on the door. "Mrs. Cross? We will need your badge and any company property before you leave." Harper drove home in silence. The mansion felt enormous and empty. Alex was not there. He had moved out 3 days earlier, staying with a friend while his own attorney tried to protect whatever personal assets had not been tied to the company. He had stopped answering her calls. Over the next month, everything disappeared. The mansion was sold to satisfy creditors. Harper had 30 days to vacate. The Range Rover was repossessed from the driveway. The art, the furniture, the jewelry Alex had given her, all of it went to auction. Harper moved into a small apartment in a part of town she used to drive through without stopping. 1 bedroom, thin walls, a parking lot that smelled like garbage on hot days. She applied for jobs: marketing manager, communications director, anything that matched her resume. No one called back. When they searched her name, they found articles about Cross Estate Development's collapse. She was the executive VP. She was Alex's wife. No one wanted the association. She started applying to lower-level positions, coordinator roles, assistant jobs. She got 2 interviews. Both ended when they realized who she was. By December, her savings were gone. She was behind on rent. The landlord left notices on her door. She called her mother and asked for money. Her mother said she had helped enough already. She called friends from the mansion days. They were busy. They would call her back. They never did. One afternoon, she was walking past Ian's office building downtown. She had not planned to go there. She was just in the area, or that is what she told herself. She stood across the street and watched the entrance. Glass doors, polished stone, people in business clothes coming and going. Then Ian walked out. He wore a dark blue suit. His hair was shorter than she remembered. He was not alone. A woman walked beside him, tall, dark hair, laughing at something he said. She wore a simple dress and carried a leather bag. Ian held an umbrella over both of them, even though the rain was light. Harper crossed the street before she could think about it. She stepped into their path. Ian stopped. The woman beside him stopped. Up close, Harper could see the details. The woman's engagement ring. The way Ian's hand rested naturally on her lower back. The ease between them. Ian. He looked at her. His face showed nothing. Harper. She had rehearsed this. She had thought about what to say, how to say it. All of that disappeared. "I need to talk to you." The woman beside Ian glanced at him. He nodded slightly. She stepped back, giving them space, but she did not leave. "Go ahead," Ian said. Harper's throat felt tight. People walked past them on the sidewalk. Traffic moved in the street. The rain kept falling. "I was wrong. About everything. I thought money mattered. I thought success meant houses and cars and all the things Alex had. But I was naive. I see that now. Okay. I miss Hazel. I miss being a family. I know I made mistakes. But people can change. I have changed." Ian said nothing. "Please, I want you back." That was when she dropped to her knees. She did not plan it. It just happened. She gripped his leg with both hands. The rain soaked through her jacket. Her voice broke. "Please, Ian. Please." People stopped walking. Harper could see people watching. She did not care. She held on. Ian looked down at her. Then he gently moved his leg. Her hand slipped away. He adjusted the umbrella and took the woman's hand. They walked toward the curb where a black Mercedes was waiting. Harper stayed on the pavement. Her sobs echoed off the buildings. Someone asked if she was okay. She did not answer. She watched Ian open the car door for the woman, then walk around to the driver's side. The back door opened, and a little girl jumped out. Hazel! She wore a school uniform and carried a backpack covered in stickers. She saw Ian and ran to him. "Daddy, guess what I got on my spelling test?" Ian scooped her up. "What did you get?" 100. Miss Rodriguez said it was perfect. The woman smiled at Hazel. That is amazing, sweetheart. I am so proud of you. Hazel hugged her, then hugged Ian. The three of them got in the car. The doors closed. The Mercedes pulled into traffic and disappeared around the corner. Harper sat on the wet pavement until her knees went numb. Eventually, she stood up. No one was watching anymore. The crowd had moved on. She walked back to her apartment. It took 40 minutes. By the time she got there, her clothes were soaked through. She sat on the edge of her bed and looked at the room. Cracked paint. A window that did not close all the way. Furniture from a thrift store. This was her life now. The consequences of every choice she had made. Ian had fought for his daughter. He had built a future. He had become someone who did not need to prove anything to anyone. And when Harper came back, begging for another chance, he had walked away. He had chosen forward over backward. He had chosen the family he built over the woman who broke the one they had. Somewhere across town, Hazel was probably showing her spelling test to her father and the woman who would soon be her stepmother. They were making dinner, talking about their day, being a family. Harper had wanted them back, but they had never stopped being whole. They had just stopped including her. If this story made you feel something, do me a favor right now. Subscribe to this channel because we bring you stories like this every single day. Leave a comment and hit the like button. Some people only value what they have after they have lost it. Some people spend their whole lives chasing what looks good instead of what is real. Harper learned that lesson on a rainy street, on her knees, begging a man she had once called worthless. And Ian learned that the best revenge is not destroying someone. It is building something so good, so solid, so real, that when they finally realize what they lost, you are too busy being happy to care. He did not look back when he drove away. Some things you carry forward, and some things you leave exactly where they fell.